here we are again.
Good morning, Drew. We do record this in the morning, so that is factual.
That's why we've got so much energy.
Yeah, with a couple of things we can see to you, the listener. We actually did a whoop and a holler before we came on air, as it were. There was a genuine whoop,
Big
and
energy vibe.
big energy vibe, and there was also the mutual admission. We had no idea which number of this episode it is, so
We think it's episode 8, but who knows?
we're not even going to say welcome to episode. It is just the next one, the next in line of what is now becoming quite an infamous series of conversations
Indeed.
between two old farts. And one of our viewers slash listeners, whom I know, I must concede, is a mate, did describe us as two old wankers.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. I think the inference being trying to persuade people that we know what we're talking about. But we have always said that I think we did claim at the very outset that we are not researched and we are not in any way.
No, I mean, opinions are ubiquitous, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, my opinion is far more important than a lot of others. Not everyone's, but a lot of others.
And certainly probably louder.
Yeah, and you stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
So, excellent. Moving on. What are we talking about today?
Well, there will be some highlights and some lowlights. We are in danger of, becoming a very, very poor imitation of Mayo and Commode, or Commode and Mayo. And Kermode, not Commode, and chat about the film that we have seen. We covered Michael in the last ep, which I still really, really enjoyed covering and making able to go and see it. I'm really pleased I did. I'm also very pleased I made the effort to go to the cinema or movie theatre for our friends across the pond to see The Devil Wears Prada 2. And we will discuss that and a little bit about big concerts, big AI, and some of the usual stuff.
That sounds good. And it's interesting that you mentioned going to the cinema, because we've both obviously seen those movies in the last just over a week. So Michael and The Devil Wears Prada 2 at the cinema independently. I have to say we're not a couple. I mean, we could be, but we're not.
And I wouldn't have a problem there. I can think of many worse partners in my life, but yes, we went independent.
But my son is a massive advocate of going to the cinema, and his reasoning is, well, it's twofold. One is the cinema experience is obviously really something quite special, but also he really wants to protect the industry. And it's quite interesting because he's only 14, so he doesn't really know a lot about economics or business models, but he can see that if the cinemas go, everything goes direct to TV, quality is likely to suffer. And so he wants to see everything. When it comes out, he wants to see stuff in IMAX, proper IMAX, filmed stuff in IMAX.
Really interesting, that, especially for somebody so young that would feel, but he is absolutely spot on. And I say that having been to the cinema for, obviously very regularly 4 years, but then had a hiatus, and the streaming, community means you don't go to the movie theatre. But I'm so pleased I went to see Michael and The Devil Wears Prada 2 in the cinema. We should talk about The Devil Wears Prada 2 as we are now.
We'll do that a bit. Well, should we do that a bit later? Let's come back to that.
I am always disappointed when I see artists cancelling tours. And I usually think, something's happened, something fundamental that they can't actually go on tour. But I read with great interest that tickets are not selling, most notably Pussycat Dolls reunion tour. I was very pleased to see it announced, and it didn't surprise me. And I thought, yeah, I kind of get that. And this week, big announcement that they have pulled the entire US tour.
I believe the only ones that have been really honest and said we pulled it because we haven't sold enough tickets.
Which I absolutely picked up on. I thought, you know what, fair play, good for you. And do you know what? I don't know what the price of the tickets were, but a lot of other, bands are doing the same. There's a lot of tickets aren't selling. And I just think it's become such an expensive experience. You can probably afford one a year. One big outing, you're going to Reading, one would be going to Glasgow, or you would be going to see Harry Styles.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Reading's my big splurge for this year. I mean, I've gone to a few other concerts and I'll be going to a few more, but yeah, I mean, they're expensive. You're right. We've talked about this before, and not everyone is lucky enough to be able to afford to spend £150 on a ticket.
Well, no, I don't think anyone is on a regular basis.
I think there's sort of several things at work here, and I think we should sort of pick apart all of them because I think the ticket prices, I don't know, you know more about touring than I do. It feels like a very expensive undertaking, and it feels like the ticket prices are not necessarily overinflated, that they are just simply a result of what it costs to put on a show.
That much is true. Touring is an incredibly expensive undertaking, and you know, back 20 or so years ago, maybe a bit more now, touring was a loss leader, and you would go out on tour to promote your album.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's completely 180'd, and now you have all your promotion not necessarily done for you, and we can get onto that a little bit later about how promotion is different in all manner of ways. And the tour is the icing on the cake, where there is a guaranteed income, and of course you'll structure your ticket price to make money, but I just think tickets are too expensive.
I think uh, I don't disagree with that, but I think that there is also something else at play here because in the same week that the Pussycat Dolls have cancelled their tour because they're not selling enough tickets, I tried to buy tickets for a K-pop band called aespa. I'm sure you're very familiar with their oeuvre. And they are probably, I would say, nobody wants to be the second biggest girl band, do they? But they're probably next to Blackpink. They're probably the biggest K-pop girl band, and they are very popular. But they're under the radar for the average person.
Okay, that's the key thing about this whole social media marketing conversation that we have, that under the radar nowadays does not mean niche or invisible. In fact, you can be under the radar, and we'll go on to talk about this
Yeah.
with streaming series as well. Under the radar's fine.
So they released their UK tour tickets yesterday at 2 p.m. About 3:30 p.m. I casually went to have a look to see if there were any, and the whole of the O2 in London has sold out, apart from the VIP packages starting from £325. No, thank you.
Cheapest ticket, would you happen to know off the top of your head?
Well, it said from £65.
I was just about to say 65 quid's the entry level ticket.
I would be staggered if there were more than three. I mean, I've never seen
Restricted vision as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, in a different venue on a different night. You just have to imagine it. But it's I've never seen anything under about 80 or 90. So when I've looked at the O2 for that sort of gig, but I mean, they've sold it out. So there you go. What does that tell you? It tells you that they have a loyal fan base who love their music and want to see them live. And what does it tell you about the Pussycat Dolls?
Yeah. Okay, so that sums it up.
And no offense to Pussycat Dolls, I'm sure they're brilliant, but there's not a market for it right now.
And the market that is exploding is, for example, K-pop, or these under the radar, as we put it.
Yeah, and of course they're not under the radar because they're having millions and millions of streams. They are selling loads of actual products like CDs, like T-shirts, merch. They sell sticker packs, poster packs, all sorts of crap. Books
The
with
12-year-olds will absolutely love.
which they love, and good on them. Twas ever thus, and they are doing really, really well at it. And the likes of you and I never heard of them, and that's fine.
Well, we possibly wouldn't hear them anyway because we are old farts, as we know. Very, very happy to admit that. But my three daughters, all in their 20s, would never have heard of those K-pop bands that you have just quoted.
I wonder.
No, never, ever, ever. I promise you, hand on my heart. And I think that, a couple of things, and I know I've wanged on it before, this under the radar type of social media marketing is so incredibly effective. I mean, if you think that networks, record labels are sat there panicking, they're certainly not.
No.
They're absolutely diving in. But what I think it does throw up and mean is that we are not as tribal as we used to be, certainly in terms of bands that we follow, because, back in the good old days, now we'll stop saying that, you'd have, half a dozen, bands to choose from. And you would either be a Durrani or a Spandau fan or whatever, right. Now you can exist very happily and not know what your neighbor is listening or
Yeah.
watching. And there are it's such a huge market.
And it was so much simpler, wasn't it? Because you either heard what was on the radio.
Again, another great
your-
point.
Yeah, and you picked your radio station accordingly. So if you wanted something more indie and experimental, you had to search further. Otherwise, you listened to Radio 1, and or Capital maybe, and it was pretty basic, limited amount of very curated songs and bands. Or you went to your local venues and you saw who was up and coming. But you didn't really get to see, if you lived in London like I did, you didn't get to see what was going on in the Manchester scene until the first I heard of Oasis was when you were working at Sony, and you handed me Supersonic, I think, as a promo CD. We've talked about this before. I've still got that CD. I love it. And I'd never heard of them. And I put that on and I went, this is awesome. And that was before the song had come out, I think. And there was no way for me to really hear about Oasis.
All the Manchester scene that didn't cross the mainstream. And also, it wasn't particularly acceptable for the big, fat cats in London, cigar smoking advertisers and brands who, didn't like, grubby shoegazing bands. They wanted more Madonna.
Yeah. And
Janet Jackson.
And you had MTV, and you had your local press and your national press. So you had things like Melody Maker, NME. There were a few others, I think. But basically, you had to buy a little paper, read about the bands that were up and coming, try and seek out their music somehow. But I mean, it was not easy. You can't, it's quite hard for anyone, probably under the age of about 30, to imagine a world in which you want to hear a song and you just simply can't, or hear a band. It's really changed.
Well, it's such a great music that anyone under the age of 30 wouldn't consider that 40. The likes of you and I would wait for every Sunday to come around. Sunday evening, the charts, the actual UK record sales charts would be announced on the one radio station. Forget Capital, and it was Radio 1. It was the national chart. I think it's 6 or maybe 7 on a Sunday evening. And we would press record on our cassettes. If you had a dual cassette or a cassette from your radio, that was considered very high tech. Very flash. And you would try and edit out the pre-announcements and the post-announcements. But incredibly, that's what used to happen. You have to wait a week or rely on it being playlisted on Radio 1. But we didn't listen to Radio.
Which, of course, they couldn't. We couldn't playlist the whole top 40.
And we certainly didn't listen to Radio 1 because we were at school.
Yeah.
And hanging around outside, playing conkers.
Yeah.
In the playground.
Playing in the street.
Yeah. So
getting into strangers' bands.
Yeah. No, and I also think that we've got to be careful that it might seem that we're describing an industry of today in 2026, which is almost impossible to get one's head around. Well, it is, but don't worry, you're not alone. Nobody's really got their head around it, certainly when it comes to AI, which we will touch on, and the way that this business works. Hit records are still hit records. Fans will still dictate who does what at the end of the day. So if anyone's thinking, oh my goodness me, I'm tearing my hair out, I can't get my head around this, don't worry, no one else can.
I think that segues on really nicely into the other thing we want to talk about, which is the controversy in the last few weeks about what we describe as seeding, where bands are overhyped within social media to kind of boost their popularity, boost their viral moment. And some of the bands that have been mentioned, well, one in particular is Geese, who've, I feel very sorry for. They're taking quite a bashing for it. For what? For doing their job to promote in fact, they probably didn't even do it. The label probably did it, but nonetheless, their job is to get their music heard. That's
so rock band, North American.
Got to be honest, I haven't even listened to their stuff. I don't know their
Oh,
stuff.
it's interesting because I had someone tipped then on Six Music, maybe probably a couple of months ago. So I've been interested to see, but now having read that which I read about how they have been a band that, or I say the band, their uplift and their ascension has one of the reasons is because of an AI. How would I best describe it? An independent, a
It's an
promotional tool,
agency, isn't it?
slash a promotional tool,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what it's called, but they, alongside another number of bands, are now being criticised for enjoying this ride of success.
Yeah. And doesn't the audience love to criticize?
I'm afraid it does.
You know, the internet apparently is full of people espousing their opinions, and the opinions that gain the most clicks seem to be the ones that are the most controversial, the most negative.
And you know, I do think that there should be more controls and monitors. You know, my old thing about quality control. I mean, how did these bands or artists become anointed with that? Now, perhaps it's the old-fashioned. It's a record label, and they've been picked up, and therefore, rather than just load of money on posters and gigs, and the record companies investing in AI and social media assistance. Okay, I guess we have to accept that. I hope there is I hope there's a point at which someone has chosen that band because they like them.
Well, I think it's really interesting. So I like to quote one of my favorite sort of internet people. I usually repackaging Stevie Red McMinn's opinions because I think he's great. But actually today I'm going to talk about something that Rick Beato said, and another really interesting YouTuber and commentator. And he did quite a bit of proper research, unlike me. And he looked at the numbers for Geese, and then he compared them with the numbers for a really under the radar indie artist that he really rates, whose name I can't even remember. But you can find it if you just search for Rick Beato. And it was really interesting because, firstly, what was interesting was his measures of success. So he was saying they're getting, I don't know what it was, 1.3 million weekly listeners, monthly listeners. Maybe it was a bit more than that. But he was saying that's really not that great. You know, if you're accusing them of gaming the system by using AI to over promote themselves to gain this big following, what you've actually seen is nothing of the sort, because they are pretty similar figures to this other girl who no one's heard of, unless they watch Rick's channel, who's also getting sort of 1.2 million monthly listeners. So what that tells you is that he was saying, they should be getting 100 million monthly listeners if they are actually being hyped in this way and beyond what they would naturally get organically. And so I think that his opinion and his point was, you can hype so far, and then the audience decides. The audience goes, yeah, we love this, no, we don't. If they don't like your song, or they don't like your band or whatever, it doesn't matter how much you hype it. I don't think it's going to take you all the way.
Have you heard anything of that Simon Cowell band that we discussed?
I've actually even forgotten we discussed it.
So I haven't seen or heard anything of them. Now, that might mean they're doing very, very decent business in an under the radar way that we've just described.
Yeah.
December 10 is their name. It just came to me.
Yeah.
DC10. I remember us joking about this, but thinking, I think to be polite, we had reservations about the product.
Yeah, that would be the polite way of putting it.
Yeah. And I haven't enjoyed any engagement with that particular band, and I'm all over any algorithm. So it's going to be very interesting, if December 10 and our very, very clear understanding, and ultimately the public, if you don't make a decent record, the public are they'll wander off somewhere else.
I think that's true, and I think we've always said this. You need to get yourself into the public eye to get your audience. It's impossible if you've got...
And it's putting it that way. Sorry, I think that's really interesting, because in the old days, you'd let someone decide. You'd let an A&R man decide whether you're good enough for the public or... Now, as we know, you circumvent A&R, you circumvent the process, But that's the bit that I wish, we didn't have to do. I don't want to watch 10 or listen and stream 10 new bands, 9 of them being really, really average. And I want
Well, that's why I like TikTok. And again, I get a lot of criticism from my family for having a very short attention span. But I think that that is kind of, I hesitate to call it a superpower. It's a real benefit for me because I can just swipe away the stuff I'm not interested in really quickly. I love the democratization of it. I love the fact that you can decide that you're good enough and you don't have to wait for an A&R person to tell you and then sign you and then give you some money so that you can make a record. I love that you can just go, I am good enough and I want people to hear what I do and do it. I think that's great. How you navigate that, and I've been saying for a long time that one of the real missing components to things like Apple Music, which I use, and Spotify and the others, is the recommendation feature. They're never really good enough for me. They say if you like this, you'll like that, but it's never quite what I'm looking for or hoping for.
Yeah, I think we differ on this because I don't want to be I don't want to be deciding what I will consume. As a punter and a consumer, I want to be sure that it's the best in class,
So,
best in
I
show.
mean, would you say on that basis you prefer radio?
Yes, I think I do. And I do because I still listen to quite a bit of Six Music, and their new music is probably enough for me. Um, I must admit, and I suppose in recent years, Foals,
Yeah.
Kneecap, um,
Do you know, I don't know any of Kneecap's music. I know all about their controversies,
yeah,
but I don't know any of their music.
great shame because I kind of turn off the controversy, but I like bands with a bit of punchiness, and their most recent single, something I heard recently, is fantastic. Don't ask me what it's called, but Kneecap, certainly worth a listen.
Hmm.
And I got that there lot from Six Music's, sort of new music, and I'm trying to think. I've heard anything else new and exciting this year. We've spoken about Ezra Collective a lot.
Yeah.
They've been around a while, but Six Music confirmed my suspicion that they were just fantastic. Um, but I think to the listener, I mean, that we're discussing a lot of what could be potentially negatives, and how we as sort of industry insiders may have a view. There is still an awful lot of fun to be had in creating, getting together, and seeing if it works.
I mean, let's look at one example that we saw earlier in the year. So we did go to that gig together. We saw Must Be John
Yeah,
in Camden at the Jazz Cafe. I thought he was exceptional. Thought he
me
was
too.
really brilliant. He is clearly a very talented musician, and he'd put a band together. It sounds like it's a band. Certainly, it's presented like it's a band, but it's definitely him. And he hired a band, I think, for that gig. And he's a great front person. He's got great songs, great charisma. He's doing that pretty independently from what I can see. I don't know if there is a label behind it. I don't know where the money's coming from, but it looks pretty homemade. Doesn't sound homemade, but it sounds really good. But it's got that kind of raw energy of an independent artist. And I think what's interesting with him is he's like active on socials. He's, I'm on I think it's called Must Be Family WhatsApp group or Insta group. And, I get regular updates of when he's playing, new singles just come out. I think, that is a really great example of someone who didn't wait around for a deal, didn't wait around for other things to happen. He just went out there, made it happen. He's got the talent, caught my attention from TikTok, found him on TikTok.
Let's do this. Let's take a straw poll at the end of our recording, which will be in a couple of months, I guess, or we'll look at the numbers and look at what gigs and venues he's selling out. Must Be John. I loved it too, I must admit. Really, really fun. And you use the word charismatic. He has got great charisma. And actually, this year, I think, is the year of the charismatic rather than the year of the social media expert, because I think that's missing. I hate to say it, but traditionally the person who won I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, you'll see them rock up on an untold number of shows. Not only could I not tell you the name of the person who won it, I haven't seen them rock up on anything really, and I think that may have something to do with the lack of charisma, if I may.
I don't know who it is. So.
Oh my God,
Well, there you go.
Thank you.
I rest my case, my lord.
Did you see the thing that Hannah Fry put out?
Yeah, so that was remarkable, and I don't think we can easily put a link in on a podcast. I don't know how to do that because I'm not clever enough. But basically, if you search for Hannah Fry and search for the thing about agentic AI that she posted around about early May of 2026, you will find this. Oh, it's on YouTube. It's a video. It's about 20 minutes long, and it blew my mind. And bearing in mind that I work with AI lots, I have a Claude Pro subscription, so I'm using it a lot for professional use. I know what it can do. I've got friends developing music software with it that can do the most incredible things as well. So I shouldn't be surprised, but I was still absolutely mind blown.
So for the purposes of today, really is go and have a look. Hannah Fry, who I adore, I think she's everything
Very
you want.
good. She's
Great, again, very charismatic, knows her shit. And I think as a professor, is she not?
She meant Robert.
Doctor, professor. Oh, I love a bit. Letters before or
I
after
think
a name.
mathematics specialist.
Who cared? Letters before or after a name. I'm sold. But no, the notion being that AI's capabilities.
If you have them before and after, does one cancel the other out?
No, it's very much an accumulation of letters. And I'm just trying to think what letters. I have no letters before or after, but I have a swimming certificate, 25 yards, when I was 10 years old. And I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations.
But try and catch Hannah Fry's experiment with AI agents. Now, and by the way, anyone who's an agent in this business watching it, it's not that definition of agent, it's agency. And it's basically an AI performing a role of an assistant. And it is fascinating about the lengths that AI can go to.
Yeah. Well,
to make.
Guess what rhymes with assistant? Persistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really extraordinary. I thought every test case they gave it, because she was working with some other people as well, were just it was incrementally extraordinary what it could do.
Yeah.
And what it just did off its own back, and how dangerous it could be.
Yeah. For example, to as we would say, an outreach, which is, in good old selling terms, is picking up the blower and phoning some leads and getting out and trying, everyone in this business has an element of sales about them, as you and I do on a daily basis. This was quite remarkable, the ability of the AI assistant to reach out to a quite specific group of individuals by email and technically, I mean, astounding.
But also, it never gets bored or tired. So it never goes, okay, I've got 10 leads and I can't find the other 2 that I'm looking for, so I'll give up now.
What it doesn't do, it wasn't say, oh, what's time? Is it time for lunch? Which is my biggest problem.
I just think it's astonishing what it's doing now, and it's more a case of looking at what could it be doing in a year's time. And we're, we do say, or we do imply weekly that we are maybe doomed as a species. I do feel that certainly a lot of the processes and hard work that we do will be obsolete quite soon.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, and we do discuss AI quite a bit, but there again, why wouldn't we?
Well, it's the technology of right now, and it's the biggest opportunity and the biggest threat.
Going back to our conversation about streaming, people like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and now Apple, and all these, will they reach capacity? And the reason I'm asking this is, let's take Netflix. I don't know how many subscribers they have in the UK. I suppose their aim is to get more. Amazon Prime, to get more subscribers. There must become a time when it's kind of at capacity.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, I mean, presumably when you've got every single person on the planet, you're at capacity. So that's the goal. I guess they're a long way off that, so there's still capacity to grow. You're right, though. I mean, I remember being staggered many years ago when I learned Sky's business model. So if you look at Channel 4, BBC, ITV, they are all looking at viewing figures. That's their metric. They go, are people watching this stuff? Should we continue to make it? Whereas Sky don't care. They literally don't care. They'll put a poster up for a new series. I remember when Gangs of London came out. Great series. Loved it. And I loved the poster. I remember looking at the poster and going, ooh, that looks fun. That looks like something I might watch. And I think that was a moment where I took out a subscription to Now TV because I didn't have it at that point. And that's what they want. They're selling subscriptions. They don't care whether you watch the show. So their viewing figures are often quite low on things, but it doesn't stop them from recommissioning them.
Well, interesting, the lengths that streamers will go to and how competitive it is. And there's an example at the moment, which I'm very aware of, about seeding, pre-release, as it were, pre-transmission. I don't know if you're familiar with Heated Rivalry,
I'm aware of it.
which is a very beautifully shot drama, but related to ice hockey and relationships and love and conflict and all the rest of it. Well, Amazon Prime, I don't know what he'd rather see at Netflix.
I think it is.
So Amazon Prime have got a competitive, similarly romantic, steamy college drama, again associated with ice hockey. And the reason I think that's important is because that's quite brave, because no bugger in the UK, probably Europe's that bothered about ice hockey, are we? I don't think so. I think sports-related drama is always tricky. If you take Ted Lasso out of the equation, which is a comedy, but that doesn't matter. Amazon Prime have a new series debuting May the 13th, next week. The cast announcement for season 2, which starts shooting next week, was made live on a Zoom call from the lead actor to the very lucky, lovely, beautiful actor who's going to be playing his romantic lead.
Do we know who that person is?
What we do, his name is Antonio, and the lovely leading lady is India Fowler.
No relation.
Very related. My youngest and shortest daughter, I should
Which
say.
is
But I have
which is
never-
fabulous and amazing.
It is fabulous, of course, and obviously very proud dad. But she was told on a Zoom by the leading her leading opposite lead, and I've never seen that before ever.
Yeah. I mean, everything's an event now, isn't it? And it's fascinating, and it's why the UK terrestrial broadcasters are all crapping themselves, because they can't afford to do this. They haven't got the infrastructure. I mean, I guess the BBC have been involved in social media for a long time, Channel 4 too, but they don't have the nous to do this.
Well, I mean, I think also that may come down to budget. I mean,
Oh, a lot of it's budget.
the money that Amazon Prime have. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly money is no object, but I mean, it's
But of course, posting is not free, but close to free. I mean, posting content is pretty inexpensive, which is why it's been so democratized, which is why people can come from nowhere. So the problem is for big companies, how do you post stuff that will engage with an audience that is expecting user-generated content? That's the toughest thing.
You're probably familiar, as I am, with the billboards on Sunset Boulevard.
I am.
And I always, rather old-fashioned way, thought if you get a billboard on Sunset Boulevard, you've kind of made it. And I don't know whether...
I still feel that's true.
I hope it is. I hope it's true. I wonder when the financial director of Paramount or whomever signs the check request for that. He's thinking, what's the point? You know, what is the point? I've got 1 million views of this free piece of content, and you know, a few thousand cars going by, probably not able to look because they're on their phone.
So The Devil Wears Prada 2, we both watched it independently, honestly. What did you think?
I'm pleased I went to the cinema because I feel that it is my responsibility to actually watch the bloody film and not, dual screen. So that was something. Um, I do think that the overall, I don't make movies, so the overall design, as it were, I thought was very clever, and I enjoyed it from a sort of filmic, take me outside and shoot me point of view. I enjoyed that aspect of it. Anything else? I mean, you've got the biggest stars in the world, right? The biggest A-listers, am I right?
It is.
Let's say the biggest female
Hmm.
A-listers, without a shadow, which I thought was very interesting, and I liked that aspect of it. And I just thought it looked really, really beautiful and lovely. And I'm not a fashionista in any way, shape, or form. I would imagine that certain people absolutely love it just for the looks, the dresses, the styling. I hold Stanley Tucci in such high esteem anyway, as just one of the coolest guys on the planet, a guy you desperately want to have a drink with, which I have.
Have you?
Once upon a time. And yeah, just the cooler than cooler sort of bloke in the world. And I thought he was pretty good.
I mean, I thought it. You're right. It looked lovely. It looked really expensive. I thought I had limited expectations. It felt like a bit of a cash in to do it. I mean, why? Why do a second one? And I'm not a massive fan of Hollywood just going, well, we don't have any new ideas, so let's just rehash an old one, remake an old one, or do a follow-up. But actually, I thought it worked really, really well. I really loved the story. I had a disagreement about this with a director friend of mine who utterly hated it. I thought the story was really weak, very simplistic character development, very one-dimensional. I sort of agree with him, but I kind of loved it because there was a lot crammed into one film. I thought the story worked on lots of levels. They had obviously decided to give it a subtext, which is that AI is bad and technology is bad and craft is good, which I liked that was in there. There was a little subtext.
There was a little subtext, but that surprised me because the outburst of her not even on the main screen when she's in tears accepting her award, right, was looked at. You saw that on someone's phone. If you remember, when she's in tears accepting her award, that is you're watching that secondhand.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was. I mean, was that? It's probably great filmmaking. What do I know?
A little aside, I don't know if you know this, but there's some AI images of the editor serving fries or something, serving lies, not fries or something. Do you know where?
Oh yes,
Ours? And
yes.
interestingly, those aren't AI. They're hand painted by an artist, especially for the film, obviously. Which I thought was a really nice little touch to do something that looks
Gosh.
sort of
See, I didn't know that.
generative,
I
but
didn't know that. And of course, the idea is that you think it's AI,
yeah,
but the whole point of it is not. That's a huge thing for me.
nice little
That's a
touch.
huge thing. I'm not sure I'll get over that.
I thought it was great. I thought it was fun. I thought it, it ticked a lot of boxes for my Sunday morning, which is when I saw it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. I thought it was okay.
I thought the stories tied together really neatly. I thought it was incredibly well crafted, almost crafted to within an inch of its life. But
Yeah,
but really,
the chauffeur-driven Maybach, and I mean, it was really a very good. People will, gorge at its, its wonderfulness, but as stories go, it's, what's the point?
well, indeed. And the Lady Gaga cameo.
Wow, I'm glad you came onto this because this was something.
So we haven't discussed this previously.
No.
This is literally off the cuff.
Yeah.
But it bothered me. Did it bother you?
Well, well, it bothered me why, and I didn't recognise the track.
I think it's a new track, isn't
Well,
it? Written for it.
so that's.
I think the track's a grower. I think that's it's not instant, but I think it's a grower. The thing with Lady Gaga is that she is an actress. She has acted in several things.
Yeah,
She was outstanding in A Star Is Born.
yeah.
Yet somehow she managed to look like she couldn't act in this.
Well, that's probably a very accurate portrayal of a pop princess
Yeah,
or pop
I mean, I wonder if that
megastar.
was she was going for.
Anyway, the fact that Gaga, I feel I can say Gaga, turns up at the end and does a piece, I thought, well, this is an incredibly expensive pop promo, but hey,
I mean, that's exactly what it was.
yeah.
And it felt incredibly shoehorned into the narrative.
And do you know, when I saw it, God, this is how similar. I thought, I wonder if the lawyers had to agree that she would get at least 30 seconds. I think there was a lot of the track. In other films, take my word, you get 10-second bursts.
And it actually felt way too long.
Okay.
It felt like they'd stuck a prop promo in the middle.
And you might get a track on the end credits where everyone's buggered off.
Yeah.
But in the movie, and I've had, on behalf of, artists, had tracks in movies, and it's, literally, is that it?
Yeah. No, for me, it was the one point in the movie where I was like, really, can this be over now?
But she did look great. I thought they did that well. I thought the staging, I thought that, and the camera, I thought that was done quite well.
I mean, it was fine.
But yeah, I listen. The only reason I went to see it because I wanted to had done some research.
No, by the way, I loved the movie, so I think it was great.
I wouldn't really worry about seeing it again, I must admit. But
No, I knows me.
I did think that the people had aged very well. The actors, I thought, had aged very well.
So that was another topic of conversation in the Masters household after the film, which is how come they all look the same age they did in the first film, pretty much.
Oh, that's funny. I thought the only one who hadn't, I thought looked fantastic, was again my best mate Stan, the Tooch. Well, we call him Tooch. I thought I think he's just splendid in everything he does. Being
It's very classy.
yeah, really classic.
So yeah, in summary, go to the cinema, support film, support filmmakers.
That's our driver.
That's our takeaway.
That's our takeaway, but also our driver. Do go to the cinema. So that's a wrap for whatever the episode number is that we have decided not to worry too much about. But do check in, send some comments our way. We will be looking around for the latest issues to be discussed in the wonderful world of music, film, TV, books, artistry in general.